Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Imadul Kareem. I am Head of Department of Business Administration at Greenwich University. I welcome you all on behalf of Greenwich University to this webinar session. The topic of the webinar is sustainability of businesses during COVID-19. To talk on this topic, we have panel of speakers. From Pakistan, we have Mr. Rafiq Rangoonwala. He is the CEO for the quick food industry, Monsalva. Then we have from UK, Mr. Akanimo Odon. He is the Africa Strategy Advisor at Lancaster University, UK, and CEO Envirofly Consulting UK Limited. Then we have from Malaysia, Mr. Shazib Khan. He is the plant controller at Reckitt Benckiser, Malaysia. Last but not the least, we have from Malaysia, Ms. Yusera Farro. She is the ex-accounting and reporting manager at L'Oreal Pakistan Private Limited. The moderator for today's webinar is Mr. Ali Raza Jilani, who is the head of diplomatic affairs at Greenwich University. I hope this is going to be an informative session for us and the audience as well. To proceed further, over to you, Mr. Ali Raza Jilani. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imad Saab. Welcome everyone to the webinar, Greenwich University's webinar on sustainability of businesses in 2019. Before I formally start the conversations, let me just ask you, how's life as far as the pandemic is concerned? I'll start with Rafiq Saab.
Well, life is great, as much as the best as it could be. A lot of uncertainties, but that's what makes things exciting and keeps you going. So I have taken this as a challenge and as well as an opportunity.
I see. Thank you. Dr. Odon.
Well, so I think for me, it's been a bit tricky. So my job involves me traveling. I travel an awful lot across over 30 African countries. So you can imagine a lockdown situation. I've been in the UK now on lockdown for over 3 months. But I think what it does is it opens opportunities for more exploration of new initiatives and new ways of doing business, which I hope to share today. So it's been hectic, but it's been fun.
Right. Thank you. Shazib Khan.
Yeah. So here in Malaysia, things are under control. So we are getting back to the normal life, but still, I think it will take time to get a normal life back again. Let's see, it's still surviving.
Yeah, sure. Ms. Yusera.
Since I'm in Malaysia, the country is bringing back to normal, the new normal, of course, and I'm glad that we, as people living over here, we are able to adapt to the changes that are being put in place, and so far so good. I hope the kind of the kind of changes and the kind of SOPs that have been introduced here, they can be introduced elsewhere as well. And the pandemic goes off in Pakistan as well as in the UK. The UK has reopened, and I hope it happens so in Pakistan as well soon enough.
Sure. Imadul Kareem Saab.
Yes, we are enjoying the lockdown, but with reference to the work, it's very hectic. We are engaged 24/7 in different tasks given by the organization, so still surviving.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Sorry?
You're not going to get away with it. What about you?
Sir, I mean, adaptation is the key. I see the pandemic as a portal. I mean, Arundhati Roy very famously said this in an article, that it's an opportunity to actually change the life as we know it. So looking forward to some sort of room for innovation where you have it, and maybe a little trying to go back to what we've left behind as well. Thank you for the initial comments. So here's how it's going to be. I'll just quickly present a small preamble of how we build up the discussions to this particular topic, and then I seek your comments individually against this. Greenwich University basically conceptualized this particular webinar, reckoning the situation So here's the preamble that I have to present. COVID-19 has affected the entirety of life, as we know, with ripple effects across socio-cultural, economic, and political functioning. The pandemic has not only exposed our pre-existing social and systemic vulnerabilities, but is also bound to shape the future of life at large. UNDP classified it as the greatest challenge confronting humanity since World War II, given its catastrophic implications globally. The pandemic has sent shockwaves across economies affecting agriculture, industry, as well as services sectors, bankrupting businesses around the world, causing millions of job losses across regions. COVID-19 has blurred the distinction between global multinational corporations and localized small and medium-sized enterprises with its devastating effects. Tourism, travel, and hospitality sectors have experienced its domino effect and continue to be in an uphill battle for survival. The likes of Emirates and Etihad have virtually gone bankrupt, and it would take the business world decades to surmount the effects, even by the most ambitious measures. And yet, COVID-19 is around and far from over. The situation urges the need for revisiting the efficacy of business leadership and crisis management that the pandemic has surely tested. Several questions have risen. While neither there's a definitive endline for COVID-19 nor a scientific conviction on the possibility that there are no other viruses like this. So I'd like to, first of all, seek Mr. Rafiq Rangoonwala's comment on how the situation has affected businesses at large.
You see, I have been through a lot of crises. We have gone through 1971, the separation of Bangladesh. It was a crisis for us in Pakistan. Then I have seen the stock market crash of 1980s in United States, the Gulf War, and then Pakistan, the fun never stops. So there is one challenge or the other. But this one is very different. This one is something we have never thought that we'll face. And the problem with this is that this is an unknown enemy. We are still finding out about this COVID-19. As you can see that every day, every week, there's some new information. But obviously, we are today much more educated than what we were 3 months back. We don't know what works and what don't work in exact way, because I remember in the beginning we were told that don't need to wear masks because the vapors are so heavy and it will just drop, and now mask is a must. Then there are a lot of conspiracy theories. So the fighting with an unknown enemy is something which is very difficult and uphill task. I think the major challenge is the anxiety. It's not knowing what's coming and what's going to be next. If we had known, like in any other situation, that it's going to be over in a week, 2 weeks, a month, then you can prepare yourself mentally and financially. But this is something that I don't think anyone can for sure say that it's going to be over in the next 6 months or even a year. I think life is going to be very difficult and different from what it used to be, because we had enjoyed, opening the mixing up, and we have enjoyed going out without any precautions and stuff like that. It's not going to be like that for quite some time. But with all those challenges that I mentioned and the crises that I have gone through, I have seen that people have found opportunities in that. Business in Pakistan, I can talk about. I can't. I'm not an expert on the international business. Sitting here, I think some businesses are doing well because they have tried to adapt to the situation, and by virtue of what segment they are in. For example, the food business, especially the essential food. I'm not talking about restaurants. They are doing much better than probably the electronic business or the other kind of business like textile business or something like that. So depending on which business you are in and what you are dealing with, there are challenges. The biggest fear that I have in this situation is that we might see a lot of bankruptcies in SMEs, which we will, I'm sure, talk about later. So it's going to be a heck of a challenge.
Thank you very much, Rafiq sir. Can I now move on to Dr. Odon for your initial comment, please?
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I think for me, I think what kind of jump started my feeling about what has been provided for us is I woke up in the morning and I was watching CNN, and I think on CNN there was a news item about an American couple that got married, and interestingly, it was a virtual wedding. And I remember that the person playing the piano was in a different location. The priest who was wedding them was in a different location. The person who was, if you like, playing the instrument, singing the song, was different location. I mean, it's even possible the couple were also a different location, but for them, they were not in a different location. So then I'm thinking, that's quite interesting. And at the end of the event, they asked the groom, and it was like, for him, it was the cheapest, low cost, most engaging wedding they could have thought about. And I was wondering, why is that the case? And the reason was because many people who couldn't attend the event, if you like, normally, if it was a physical event, were able to attend. And so I started asking myself, does it mean that the fundamental resources that made that happen suddenly became available because of COVID? No, it didn't. There was internet before COVID. There was potential for Zoom streaming of events before COVID. But my point is, what COVID has done for me is provided businesses an opportunity to think a bit more creatively about their business. Not long afterwards, I saw some museums in Italy show a museum, if like a showing of a museum, and people sign on virtually. Companies and if like cinemas had working arrangements virtually. So my point is, for me, COVID is almost like a global problem. But the point is, every business, every enterprise is based fundamentally by default in the provision of solutions to a problem, whether by way of products or services. So if COVID is a global problem, I see that every business owner should also see it as a matter of fact, as a potential raw material for innovation and creativity in order to begin to align themselves towards new models of service provision or product development to actually provide those problems. That's the way I see the whole event. So for me, it's been a different, entirely different arrangement entirely. I've had to change my business model totally, and I find it quite exciting that if owners of businesses can actually see it as an opportunity, even though in the midst of the pressures and the challenges, then there could be a beginning point of sustainability.
Okay, so the pandemic holds a lot of promise as far as you're concerned. I'll come back to you on that. Moving on to Shazib Khan now, for your initial comments, sir.
Yeah. So basically, as everybody is saying, is this pandemic? I think it's posing a significant challenges for all the businesses, and I think all the business leadership is working on it to overcome this or fighting hard to basically survive in these tough times of COVID-19. So just a few points I would like to add here or highlight. One is the quick response. I think the quick response is the key here. How the businesses are responding to the developing situation. If they need to take the decision now, like if they wait for it, like it will go over, if they wait for some time, I think they will lose the opportunities. Like for example, the businesses which are producing the products which are directly being used to fight combat against this virus, like the disinfectants, face masks, the hand sanitizers, or the pharma industry. So I think it's now is the time to invest or to build their capabilities, because they need to analyze the demand, and this demand will not go over soon. Like this, like the need of disinfectants or the hygiene, the importance of hygiene, I think has the long-term impact on us now, on all the societies all over the world. And I think the disinfectants and all the hygiene products will be there in the basket of the groceries for the years to come. So it will have a long-term impact on the demand, on the businesses, as well as on the consumers' behavior also. So this is on the businesses which are directly being involved in the fighting the viruses. But for the other business like the food sector or maybe the accounting firms or other businesses which are not directly like the electronics, Rangun Saf was saying, or the automobile industry, these businesses are in tough times definitely. But I think what they can do is they can support the community. They can basically help to elevate the underprivileged group of our society. So in this way, they can at least make their presence known in these difficult times, and as well as help the society, and it will definitely build their reputation as well. So definitely a difficult time. So it's easier said than done. Uh, so this is one thing like the quick response, and the second is like the business should promote the culture of safety and security also. Like they should provide the culture to basically help their employees remain safe at the work premises. So they need to show the confidence to their employees also. Obviously, there's a lot of job insecurity also there in the market. So they need to show some confidence to their employees. They need to basically provide like PPEs, like personal protective equipments, like the face masks and other these things, so that the employees can come to the workplace and feel safe. So I think this is important to have a long-term relationship with employees, and not only the employees. I think businesses should discourage things like, for example, many businesses are discouraging the cash transactions and they are going cashless. So this is not only for the employee safety, it's for the general public safety also. So these are the things like the companies are also promoting the work from home culture. So I think all the employees should be equipped with all the resources so that they can work from home. They can basically business by keeping them safe. So these are the few things which I think the business are basically doing it, or they should adapt it quickly.
Thank you very much for articulating the bare minimum survival requirements for businesses. You also tapped a critical element of sustainability. As far as the dimension of sustainability is concerned, it has three aspects. So, when you say the economics, it also involves social and then environmental. You touched on the social element, which I'll again come back to you, especially talking about the corporate social responsibility aspect of businesses, where you said they could definitely, mobilize finances and resources to help the communities as well. Moving on to Ms. Sarah for your initial comments.
Thank you, Eddie. All of us know that the COVID-19 pandemic has touched upon every life across all the continents, and businesses are now faced with challenges they never thought even existed in the economic world. Everything that the businesses were doing was brought into question. Uh, the way they operated, the efficiencies they thought they had, and the way their employees worked, and the consumer behaviors they thought that existed, the products they thought were their star products or the most competitive products, and also how quickly the companies could adapt to the challenge and the changes that were standing right in front of them. I think this was a very tough time for businesses, because businesses who couldn't keep up with the pace of change, they simply fizzled out. We saw plenty of businesses closing down, or they just downsized their operations. So I think
Right.
for me at least, this was a point to ponder. Such a situation, how quickly the businesses are supposed to adapt themselves to this situation.
Hmm. All right, thank you very much. I mean, there's a very small and short window for transitioning to this new normal, which again I'll come back to you and we'll talk about responsible production and consumption as well. Uh, Coming back to Rafiq Saab, you spoke about the human resource. Can you shed some more light on the health and mental well-being of your human resource, especially in this time when you see a lot of layoffs going around, bankruptcies around across organizations? How do you see the issues of job security and safety affecting the mental well-being of employees around the world, not just in Pakistan generally.
You see, financial security is an absolute must for an emotional health, because if you are not able to pay your bills, then you will not be emotionally settled or in a comfortable position, especially when you have family. And in a country where one person earns and six depends on him or her to feed them. So that becomes quite challenging, not just for him or her, but for the entire family, because everybody comes to stress. The other aspect is, again, as I said, not knowing what will happen. Even people who have jobs are not very sure if they will be on the job next week or next month, to face a pay cut. In some instances that has happened as well. In US, there's called something called furlough. Sent on furloughs. Okay, that is also not very comfortable. Although the U.S. government has been sending them checks in terms of economic help, but in our countries, we are a poor country, we can't afford these kind of things. And with the number of people we have as population, then a lot of people have lost loved ones or people that they knew, whether the friends or relatives or relatives of the friends. Because I remember a few months back, like 2 or 3 months back, it was just a number for us. Okay, we used to hear or see that there's so many COVID positive patients in Karachi or in Pakistan or in US or in UK or somewhere. Now we hear about people that we know that they have passed away. Okay, and the people we know that they are in quarantine because of infection. So this is also going to take its toll, and I'm concerned, and I just hope that I'm wrong, that we'll lose some more dear ones, and we don't know whether we are going to be one of them as well. The problem with this unknown enemy is that we can only take precaution, but the thing is that the way it's explained, that it's like you're going to get it regardless whether you like it or not. Okay, so that is quite challenging. But I think what we have to do is to, as a business leaders, we'll have to keep our employees motivated. We have to keep continuously assuring them that hopefully that these kind of challenges they will not have to face. And I don't know if we have some counseling available, because if somebody has lost a loved one, then they need counseling. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, we don't have concept of these things. We only go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and it's a stigma. People think that he has lost his mind, okay, or he's been under some kind of spell. That's why he's going to a peer sahib or he's going to a shrink. Social challenges that we'll have to face. So maybe some HODs or departmental heads or whatever will have to take part into this. They will have to become part counselor as well and assure their people. But I think that the real emotional challenge is going to come. It hasn't come yet. Once it's over with a little bit, and then we'll see that what scar is going to leave. But we'll have to prepare for it now. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to handle the situation.
Thank you very much. You're also touching another critical element, which is predictable business environment, not just for the employees and the individuals, but also for the enterprises and the organizations, which is not quite so at the moment. Thank you for that. I'll now move to Dr. Odon. You spoke about this tremendous room for innovation that the pandemic has kind of created. How do you see this particular pandemic as a catalyst for different kind of innovations to be introduced, especially as far as the SMEs are concerned? And maybe you could also shed some light on the African perspective.
Thank you very much for the question, Ali. So I think in some sense, fundamentally, like I established earlier on, crisis and challenges and disruptions kind of gives a background for innovation and creativity. And I think we've seen that in the last 5 to 6 months. The level of virtual innovation or new business models has developed in the last 6 months has been incredible, literally. And things like the capacity for you to kind of think about e-commerce as an additional dimension to every business. Is there a potential for it? Maybe there is, but remote working has become like a norm. Does that provide a new environment for new businesses, for new ways of communication or doing business? Online education, ed tech, it's become like the order of the day. I mean, and so the universities will never considered, or institutions will never considered virtual learning as an important dimension to this new space. Have they considered that? New ways of logistics, new ways of communication. The healthcare will be a big deal. Like health support systems done virtually, done by online through different models has become so. Every market you touch, every sector you touch, and I check this, you only need to add tech at the end of the sector, and there is a provision. So if it's agri-tech, if it's education, edutech, if it's whatever it is. So there's almost like a layers and layers of opportunities that you can begin to innovate on to address the same market, a revised market, or a new market in the provision of your product or your service, which is why the average business owner needs to sit back and think a bit more creatively across the supply chain. So what can I innovate on? So look at Africa. Africa is over 1 billion people, 55 countries. So you used to do your business in Kenya and your focus was a physical business. They came to your shop. That was fantastic. But in the era you now live, you've been on lockdown for over 3 months. Is there somebody in nearby Tanzania that can actually subscribe to your offer? There's somebody in Nigeria. It's a massive continent. So my point is, automatically, you understanding the leverage of providing your product, your service in a virtual environment increases your market. Because when you restrict your space, you restrict your place. So automatically. Now, for this to happen, that means you have to bring into a new dimension around partnerships. So if you never consider other jurisdictions as a potential opportunity for you to do your business in, right now, the world is an open space, especially if you are able to do enough research to find out which environments, jurisdictions, which market niches, which segments can I also provide a service to that I never considered. What COVID has done is given an opportunity for you to sit back, do a bit more introspection and research, and find out how can I navigate my business. Because guess what? If you don't begin to think about navigating your business or being innovative at the moment, people will leave you behind. It's as simple as that. So I think my point is what COVID has done is get businesses to think a bit more differently about the opportunity for innovation for that space. I mean, most people have got mobile phones. What do they do with mobile phones? I mean, I'll give an example. So my business is around providing physical training. So I have to travel to a location to deliver training to universities, to vice chancellors, to professionals. But I've been on lockdown for 4 months. Now, do you know I rolled out a program just literally 2 months ago, and the number of students I've been able to reach in 2 months is more than the whole number of students I reached the whole of last year in 2 months. But the point is, it requires some research, a bit more tweaking, some developing of some skills which I'll talk about later to be able to adapt yourself to this new environment. So every business, every sector, just add tech to it and figure out, is there a market that you can provide some part or full part or some dimension or element of your current business to virtually. And sometimes it's a function of even promoting and profiling yourself to be able to increase your market space.
Right. Thank you very much. It's very interesting to hear from you on that, because there's a lot of talk going around globalization being a liability, especially with the vulnerabilities that the pandemic has exposed. So it's very good to hear from you on in terms of some of the ways to actually strategize how we could still use the agency of globalization for trade and then other purposes as well. Thank you. I'll now move on to Shahzeb Khan. You spoke about the social element, the social responsibility element. I'd want you to actually shed some light on that in terms of what exactly could businesses contribute, because as far as smaller countries are concerned, there's also a talk that enforcing lockdowns could be more expensive than addressing the pandemic itself. Now, in smaller countries, because of lack of financial resources, we will have to mobilize domestic resources, also including from the private sector. And that is where the social responsibility will be located. And it's going to be a critical component moving forward to help communities thrive in a way. So that's one aspect that I'd want to hear from you. The other side is you also happen to be a chartered accountant. So what about the financial contingency of these different organizations and the business models that we have in place right now? And how do you see these shifting gears moving forward?
Okay, so regarding your first point on the corporate social responsibility, so yes, as I mentioned in my initial comments also, that I think it's a time for the private sector to come forward to help the community. And yes, the countries like Pakistan, like India, Bangladesh, they can't afford to have longer lockdowns. They don't have, the government does not have the resources to support the masses. So it's I think it's other countries also. All the countries are slowly and gradually opening all the businesses, everything. So for the, especially for Pakistan, I think it is the responsibility of like the NGOs, like even the private sector organizations or companies also, to come forward and to basically make a fund out of it. Like I know many MNCs, they are now creating a fund for this COVID-19 support. It's not only for like your own country, like it's like for MNCs, they are building a fund, and through that fund they can support the other countries, the underprivileged sector also. So I think this is one thing where like the companies can pool up, maybe the not only the MNCs, like the other companies, other big groups, they can combine and they can make a pool or a fund, and through that fund I think the support can be given to the community, which is basically struggling in these tough times. So that is one thing. And on the second aspect, like the financial contingency plan. So yes, I think the business leadership across all the industries, across all markets, they are working to have their strategic plans in place to fight this, to survive rather in these tough times. So because I think it's not only any one market. I think this is like the businesses which are growing also due to this pandemic. They're also working on the contingency plan. It's not like we launched all the line or basically establish a factory for example the face mask. So what will happen now if the demand will go down? And so they need to be very much careful in investing their resources, investing their time. So yes, I think all the companies are working to have a right strategy, balanced strategy. They should not basically take much risk in investing a lot of resources and then everything goes away. So like from financial perspective, they also need to basically justify the return on investment, like the payback period also. So maybe standing today, we can estimate a higher demand for like this personal protective equipment, like disinfectants, but down the lane, maybe in few months or maybe 6 months, 1 year. So it's quite tricky. So I think all the companies, they should consciously make a decision to invest in the right portfolio nowadays.
All right, thank you very much, Shazib Khan. Moving to Ms. Yasera, businesses around the world have experienced adverse demand shock. We've seen over the years there's been this growth fanaticism in terms of a tremendous variety of products in a huge number. So let's talk about the sustainable production and consumption aspect. The way pandemic has affected consumer behavior, and how do you see the elements of sustainable consumption and production moving forward, as a core part of strategic innovation that the organizations need?
All of us know, Ali, that after the pandemic, the household finances have decreased. People are short of income.
Yeah.
They're short on savings, and obviously they're short on spending.
Mm.
So these elements have actually they've prompted people to rethink their priorities, not only
Right.
businesses but individuals as well. So if I
Yeah.
speak of consumerism and focus on it in individuals, we know a lot of people out there, and as Rafiq Saab also said, they fear losing their jobs, and
Mm.
they don't have a lot of savings at hand, for those who have lost their jobs already.
Right.
So consumerism, which was, before the pandemic, we saw, everything was moving towards digitization, and there was lots of competition, and we would see one product after the other, and the new one was better than the previous one, and they would be all over social media, and it was a madhouse.
Mm.
Once the pandemic came about, I think it was a blessing in disguise for the excessive consumerism that the world was actually faced with.
Mm.
All of us wanted more. Social media, it made us envy others, anything that was out in the market.
Mm.
Even if it was launched in the US, within minutes, people in China would know of it.
Yeah.
So, for example, if it was an Apple Watch or a new phone, it would be all over
Yeah.
the internet. I think after the pandemic, people have stepped back, and they've sort of realigned their priorities in spending. So
Mm.
this was one of the cases. This one of the biggest reasons why we saw a big fall in the purchasing of luxury products.
Right.
Obviously people weren't going out, so they weren't buying these things.
Mm.
People tended to shift their focus more towards health and wellness, sanitization and self-care. So while we saw a drop in things which were probably good to have, we saw a rise in things which people started to consider must have. For example, spending on good quality food, spending on hygiene, spending on self care, spending on fitness. I think consumerism, COVID-19 is actually, a reawakening of the consumer,
Mm.
I'd say.
Mm.
Even if you would go out in the supermarkets, be it Pakistan, be it the UK, be it here in Malaysia, you would see the aisles which house fruits and vegetables and milk.
Mm.
People would be like hoarding around them, and when there was the rumors of lockdown were around,
Right.
people they were almost ransacking supermarkets, and they were hoarding on this stuff.
Mm.
So I think consumerism has taken a shift, and it has taken a shift for the better. People now actually know what they need to survive, and
Mm.
not things that they need to show off on social media.
Mm.
So I think this is my input on the fact that this pandemic has actually been a blessing in disguise for consumers which were driven towards getting things and did not know what to do of them.
Thank you very much. Hope this reawakening sustains itself in our social psyche moving forward.
I'd
Uh,
also, Ali, like to add a bit on the production side,
yeah.
since you had, touched upon that topic as well.
Sure.
I'd speak on behalf of the beauty industry since I had been affiliated to that a while back. So this is published information that L'Oreal, a company which I was a part of previously, it had shifted its focus from making beauty products to making sanitizers. And
Mm.
this is published information that nearly 14 million sanitizers were distributed among the healthcare workers
Right.
as part of the solidarity drive.
Mm.
And not only sanitizers, but also self-care products were distributed amongst nurses in the UAE. So
Mm.
I think companies have also woken up to being more human and
Mm.
understanding that there isn't always a profit edge to whatever you're making. there has to be the human side to your business as well. And in times of crisis such as this one, I think a lot of companies, they did really well in showing us what responsible production actually should be like.
Right. There's a lot of emphasis also, I mean, as far as the likes of Noam Chomsky are concerned, in terms of soulful corporations, humane corporations. That's the order of the day, and especially the likes of developing countries like Pakistan and some others. That's where we need to, have some concerted effort, mobilizing corporations, private sector, governmental resources, civil society, to create that civic infrastructure that helps communities survive and thrive moving forward. So there have to be, some concrete recommendations, which I'll also request you for moving forward when I come back to you. Rafiq Saab, I'll move to you now. How do you see, I mean, the civil society along with the private sector and then the governmental resources combining, and how we could entwine social responsibility aspect in it, especially in Pakistan's context?
You see, the corporations will spend money only if they are making money. See, this is common sense. If I
Right.
don't have any money, how in the hell I'm going to spend? Or secondly, if I have enough money that I need to survive myself, and
Right.
I'm not going to be going out and spending money in my neighborhood or in my city. Right now, there are a lot of companies, they are struggling to survive.
Right.
Okay, the money to be spent on social responsibilities and services actually is very limited right now. People are, as I said, scared earlier also, and they don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And I'm saying this from the NGO perspective is also because I'm involved with a few NGOs directly. And the kind of donations we used to get, we're not getting it anymore. It's not with just the NGOs that I'm with, it's across the board. I've talked to a lot of people, they're very well-known NGOs in Karachi, and they're Pakistan-wide as well. And they're all talking about donations drying up. NGOs don't have any source of income. They depend on the donations from individuals and corporations. So it is going to be a challenge. The only way we can spend money on these things and we can work on these projects is when there is money coming in. And that is, we will have to open the businesses. Okay, we will have to take precautions. Obviously, human life is more important than just making money. But the thing is that shutting down for a prolonged period of time is detrimental. It is going to hurt the economy. I've seen a lot of, especially shop owners. They were givers at one time. Now they are on the receiving end because their shops are closed. There's no income. They have to pay rent. They have to pay utility bills because these guys are not going to let you go. And there's nothing coming from government, to support them. I mean, when we talk about even, let's say, for example, the money that the businesses contribute in SESI or PESI or EOBIs and all those places, there's no help coming from anywhere. Okay, their businesses are left on their own. I don't want to be the ambassador of doom, but this is the reality on the ground in Pakistan. Okay, there is no help. People are left on their own to survive, but then there are conditions that you cannot terminate anybody, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. But you have to pay all the bills. So how in the world are these businesses going to survive? People are going bankrupt. If they're going bankrupt, they're not going to spend money in CSR. Let's be frank and let's be very real on this. Although, yes, this is the only way because the government cannot do everything on their own. Okay, because there's too many challenges in a country like Pakistan with the population that we have. So the thing is that if I don't have money coming in, hell, don't expect me to spend money. Where am I going to spend the money? How?
Sure, makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Dr. Adon, I'll move to you now. What do you think are some of the policy prescriptions, in terms of Africa also generally, in trying to help these SMEs, grow and then adapt to some of the innovations in terms of digitization that you mentioned? How can this technology transfer be possible at the local SME owners level?
It's very important question there. So you mentioned about innovation, and everyone knows innovation and creativity is always based on research. There has to be a research backdrop for innovation. You need to find out what were you doing before that wasn't working? What is the new market environments and factors or drivers? And how can you appropriate or realign your services to the new market? So most of the time, or generally, innovation and creativity is based on research. Now, the issue is the fact that SMEs don't have money to have massive, interesting R&D departments like multinational companies do. They struggle. They already struggle with normal bills, like Prof was saying. They are thinking about rent, thinking about how to pay for electricity to be able to cope with their business. So from a policy dimension, what has happened in Africa, and I think it's the same case in different locations, is the fact that there's a massive gap between research, academia in this case, and industry, SMEs. Okay, when you ask the average academic and say, well, or say the average university, so do you have any partnerships with any companies? For some reason, and I've done this several as I travel around, they always come and say, well, they always consider the big companies, the massive companies, but that's not actually true. In developing economies, SMEs drive the economy. That's true. And interestingly, around the average university, and I've checked this, okay, there is normally a conglomeration of SMEs within and around the university. I did a small research and discovered there are over 100 to 1,000 SMEs, depending on how big the university location is or the city, within and around the university, within a 1 kilometer radius. But this is what I discovered. Most universities don't have any conversations with SMEs, which is strange. Right. So for a policy level, if the policy level dimension could be to arrange to bridge the gap between universities, academia, and industry, such that university supports the driving of the R&D framework for innovation for the SMEs using their students. I'll give an example. In Lancaster, for example, in the UK, in the Department of Environment, there are 24 environmental SMEs resident in the Department of Environment. It's called co-location. And the premise is that there is no way the CEO of an SME and a professor will enter the same lift every day, that at some point they won't turn to each other and ask, but dude, what do you even do? And so it means that by co-locating them, you force a conversation. Are you following me? Now, but interestingly, imagine where every year, and this is true, the university will do an email to all the SMEs around and say, do you have a small problem, a small challenge as an SME, something you were thinking about doing for your research or to innovate on? Whatever it is, write it into a small proposal. It could be a 1-month proposal, a 2-month proposal. And all the SMEs will collate all this together and give to university. What do university do? They actually advertise these small projects to the students who bid for it for their master's thesis or bachelor's degree dissertation. So you find a student doing a small research project that an SME down the road is waiting for the results. These are simple policy leverages of supporting that bridging of the gap between academia, universities, and SMEs to power their R&D to give them opportunities for innovation. So you reduce the pressure load on them. It's an example. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Odon. Moving to Ms. Yusera, what are some of the structural changes at the organizational level, at these smaller SMEs, at the larger level in general, that you feel businesses need moving forward? Your mic is mute. Yeah. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I think be it an SME or be it a large-sized organization, post-pandemic, there are a few things that all of these businesses have to incorporate in their very fabric. To be honest,
right.
I think first of all there needs to be a faster pace of decision making.
Right.
Initially, businesses and even SMEs, companies which were headed by families or headed by, let's say, a father and a son or two brothers, there would be a lot of bureaucracy in such companies, and decisions they'd often linger on. In bigger companies because of the size, and smaller companies because of the bureaucracy factor. So I think this situation would help the businesses to evolve and get a faster pace of making decisions, because now they know they have very little time
Right.
to to think out a lot. Secondly, I think there's one point which I'd like to stress on for all businesses, is that they need to build in IT efficiencies, because now, since businesses are we are mostly restricted to our homes, and almost all businesses have a work from home approach for the employees. There needs to be this very tight infrastructure,
Right.
IT infrastructure, which enables people not only to work but also to communicate, to interact, to
Right.
decide, to meet up, to apprise each other of what's going on.
Right.
So I think every company needs to invest in IT, because this really would go a very long way for them. Even if pandemic, if they're over with COVID-19, and if they're beyond, they just cannot live without IT efficiency anymore.
Right.
Uh, be it building remote collaboration tools, like we hadn't heard of Zoom before the
Yeah.
COVID-19 started off. I mean, honestly, I started using it after the coronavirus outbreak, and I think it's one of the nicest things to be around. Um, and I think companies need to be, whether it's an SME or a larger business, they need to have this razor sharp focus on what needs to be done. I'd link it with decision making. Now you cannot linger on as to what you have to do. You have to see the problem, you have to decide, and you have to work on the solution, and you have to have very tightly integrated teams and IT systems for that. I think
Right.
only then a company can survive.
All right. Thank you. Whilst we're putting a lot of emphasis on the ideas of digitization and technological efficiency, would also have to parallelly consider some possibilities for cybersecurity, for smaller as well as larger organizations moving forward. And there can be a lot of collaborative initiatives going forward on that note. Now, this is going to be my last round of questions, where I basically, but also announcing that we're going to be taking some questions. We have a lot of live feeds coming in. So we're going to take different questions as soon as we're done with this round of questions, requesting everyone who's watching online to post your questions for us, for the panelists, with the name, so that we could direct those questions at them. Rafiq Saab, moving forward, what's the way forward? Amid this pandemic, and then post pandemic, if we're being futuristic, not just in terms of you can also talk about policy level prescriptions. You can also talk about procedural recommendations, structural recommendations at the organizational level. So, what are some of your recommendations moving forward, sir?
See, we will have to become a lot smarter. Yusra, is that the right name?
Yusera.
Yes, sir.
Yusera, okay, sorry. Yusera just touched upon that as well. We'll have to become a lot smarter. We have to become a lot more efficient in terms of our human resources.
Right.
There'll have to be multitasking. The efficiency has to improve tremendously, because we can't carry this kind of the cost anymore going forward basis. IT, Yusera has in length spoken about that, is going to be very, very important. And most important, as Dr. Odon said, that you have to be innovative. You have to think out of the box. The conservative way of doing business, the traditional way of doing business worked, and it's not going to be outdated, okay? But the thing is that this is the time where you need to become more innovative. You need to think of new ideas, and especially till this mess is over, till the vaccines are easily available and everyone is kind of vaccinated and immune to this mess. God knows if there's another strain is going to come of this COVID or what else. But the thing is that till then, we'll have to think, how can we reach our customers? How can we go to them? Now they can't come to us to an extent. So we'll have to think of ways, and we have to invest in our IT. At the same time, we'll have to invest in our people. We'll have to make them smarter. We'll have to make them more efficient. And decision making has always been very important. Sarah touched upon it, and I think Dr. Odan also has, because when you innovate something, you're making a decision to change. Okay, change is the key, because if you don't have the flexibility to change, then you're going to be outdated, and outdated means you're going to be out of the game, regardless whether COVID or no COVID. Okay, you have to keep innovating yourself and your company. So I think these are the things that we, the business leaders, will have to look at. We'll have to become smarter, and time is the essence. We can't wait for another 6 months to take a decision. Now the decision has to be taken now and today, and the implementation has to start. And we need to, actually, this is what the role of the leader is. To actually, what I usually explain to people, the difference between a leader and a manager is that the manager manages and he actually maintains the status quo. The leader is the one who can see in the future. He has got a crystal ball that he sees what is coming. So as a leader, we need to see the challenges coming, not right now, but in the next 2, 3, 6 months, a year, even 5 years. And we need to prepare our organization for those challenges so we can survive and we can take our organization to the next level. We can mourn about the problems, we can talk about the challenges, we can just, sit and cry and create hue, but the thing is that it's not going to solve the problem. The problem solving will come with bold decision. Okay, we'll have to become bold, and we'll have to become innovative, and we'll have to become smarter than what we used to be. Otherwise, our survival is going to be very, very difficult.
Sorry, there was some disruption with the connection. Are we done with the recommendations now?
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Rafiq, Mr. Rafiq Sahab just gave his recommendation.
Thank you for giving me the doctorate. This was the easiest doctorate anyone could have.
Actually, we live around doctors, so it is spontaneous. We call everyone doctor.
But I don't mind.
All right. Moving on to Dr. Udon, not just in terms of your recommendations, but also would specifically want you to shed some light on SMEs and the way forward generally in terms of policy or procedural recommendations.
So I think for me, why I say is this. So before COVID, I did a nice research, and I engaged over 1,000 SMEs across 6 countries. And right. It's very basic research, and the research was this. When I asked them, how many of you SME owners are doing an SME on a product or a service that has a link to what you studied in university, I discovered actually that less than 5% of them showed the case. But when I asked them and said, how many of you are doing a business or own a small SME around a passion of yours or a new interest you discovered or a new market, over 80% of them showed the case. But I discovered, as a matter of fact, that most SME owners who actually develop a new business based on an idea they have or an interest they love or a new market niche, most of the time don't find the time to actually research more and study more on that subject matter. So my point is this. See, no matter how good you are, the more you learn, the better you get. So what COVID has done has provided an opportunity for SME owners to learn some more, do some more research, find out about stuff. There is so much free programs, free training available that it has never been. And so for me, it would be sad for an SME who is trying to increase his capacity or his portfolio to go through COVID and not spend some time finding out who is offering a free scholarship, who is offering a free master's, because they are now. They didn't used to be, but there is so much available skills development opportunity for businesses, for the individual, to increase your capacity in the COVID era so you are ready and good to go after COVID. It boils down to the point around time management. Before COVID, you always said, oh, I wish I had more time. I'll have a business plan. I wish I had time. I'll start a new venture. I wish I had time. I'll think about a new market segment. I wish I had time. I'll innovate my product. Now in COVID, you've had time. Have you done it? No, you've not. So what's the point? So the concept of time management has never been so important for the average employee or SME owner as it is now. When you understand that time is a resource, when you hear time is money, I literally mean for the individual to look at time as money. How much
Right.
time do you invest in things that are relevant to you? Have you written a book? Have you researched what are my new partners that I can increase my business on? How can I get? And interestingly, and this is very important, I want to wrap up with this. Most of the resources that you require to move from one level to the other, I don't mean financial resources. When I talk about resources, people's mind always goes to cash. There are a lot of resources available that has not no cash alignment. You can actually leverage on. You talk about partnerships. People have LinkedIn profile. Do you have a business LinkedIn page? Who knows you are existent? Who knows you have an offer? It's a simple, practical thing. An SME owner can start doing a bit differently, no matter how small you are, to be available in this space. I always ask people a simple question to show you your global position. I said, Google your company name. Google your name. If Google is having epilepsy to find you out, there is something wrong. Are you following me? If Google is coughing, and maybe at the end of the search tells you, did you mean this? That means there's something wrong. So my point is, it's a good time to increase your presence, your leverage, your profile, your offer in the space you now live, or else you'll be in trouble. My recommendation.
Right. All right, thank you. Moving to Ms. Sarah for your recommendations, please.
I would, elaborate on what Dr. Odon just said. In times such as these, it's extremely important to build a skill set for everybody. We cannot just have our degrees in our hands and wait for the opportunity to come to us, because right now we know there is no opportunity hanging about. If there is an opportunity, it's something that we have to create on our own. I would, cite my own experience, my own journey, which I, experienced throughout this time, was that, if you have a degree, if you studied this and if you studied that, and you're employed somewhere and you're happy with what you're doing, and one fine day, you're not working anymore, or you got laid off because of COVID-19. What's next for you? Or putting this whole perspective onto an SME. If you're an SME, you think you're doing fine, you're making the profits you wanted to make, and you're going on a specific pace and you're happy with the pace, and then one fine day COVID-19 happens. So and you're all shut down. So let's say you're a salon, or you're some service provider.
Right.
What's next for you? And I strongly felt that we, as individuals, we have a great lacking in developing a skill set of our own. We do not know what's next for us if a calamity befalls us. So people who could write, who could paint, who could talk, who could give motivational lectures, home bakers, you would notice them thriving in this time, because everybody was homebound. So, people, all homebound people were connecting with each other because everybody was in the same situation. So I think I greatly felt this lacking in myself, and I think a lot of other people would have felt the same thing, that they never focused on developing a skill set for themselves, something that would help them to get out of the crisis during such times. SMEs, they need to think, they need to have a lot of innovation. It doesn't always mean that you need to have the right capital. I think you need to have the right ideas. As Dr. Odon said, recession is when the ideas come. I think it's not necessity is the mother of invention. In times such as these, it's recession being the mother of invention. Because take this webinar as an example. Before the pandemic, none of us actually thought that we'd be sitting across 3 countries and talking like this. But now, after the pandemic, this is a reality, and I think moving forward also, events such as these, they would take place. So I think we need to think out of the box.
Thank you. That concludes our show in a way on a very positive note that the pandemic holds a lot of promise. We just need to open our eyes to it. Let's have some questions added to the screen. Meantime, I move to Imadul Karim Saab for your recommendations, please.
Okay, my recommendations in this regard are strictly focusing on technology. Because whatever we are thinking out of the box, whatever plans we are making, if this technology is not there, it is very difficult to execute the plans. So in this
Right.
technological era, it was the blessing and the disguise that we have the updated technology to execute our plans. And I want to congratulate the leadership of my organization, especially Madam Seema Mughal, the Vice Chancellor of Greenwich University. So, due to her proactive approach, when this COVID situation occurred, initially when the government stopped students coming to the university initially for 2 weeks, so we started planning from the very beginning. And I think we were the first university in the private sector that responded to this pandemic situation. And we were proactive in our stance. So we made all the plans, and this semester which was affected was smoothly conducted. Now we entered into the next semester, which is summer semester, and all the things are going very smoothly. So all the things were managed, all the plans uh, uh, all the plans were successful just because of the technology. So
Right.
technology is the key, I think, for further as this thing keeps on going further, or maybe a lot difficult situation occurs in future. We should adopt the latest technology and make use out of it to execute our plans, and whatever we are thinking out of the box. It is possible only just because of the technology. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's have the first question. The first question is, what industries do you think would be affected most globally due to this pandemic? Dr. Odon, would you be
So
interested in taking this
yeah,
question? Yeah.
absolutely, yes. I think the two biggest industries would be transport and hospitality, because they're the industries that have got the biggest need by design for people to come together. So if you're avoiding people, then that industry cannot work. But it means that, but having said that though, every industry, agriculture, it doesn't matter, medicine, education, has got COVID would have impacts in one level or ramification or the other. So I guess the question is finding out within the supply chain of that industry, at what target points is there an opportunity for innovation? It doesn't have to be all of it. You follow me?
Right.
Within the supply chain, at what specific points in the supply chain is there an opportunity for creative innovation that provides potentially a new niche offer within the sector? But generally, every industry will be affected, even though the highest will be transport and hospitality.
All right. Thank you very much for that valuable question, Dr. Musarat Adnan. She also happens to be the Dean of Greenwich University's Business Management faculty. Yeah, mainly hospitality sector in particular has also had like the domino effect along with the travel and other concerned fields. Moving on, the next question is, due to pandemic, many businesses shifted online, but many businesses cannot work online and human element is essential. So what should they do to switch their business to something more practical for online, or wait things to get normal? Ms. Yusera, would you like to take this question?
Certainly. I think businesses which cannot go online right now, I think there will be very few businesses which you can actually say cannot go online. An online business can also mean that you have a Facebook page where you can interact with people and perhaps show your product or do a live session and take their orders. So I think the possibilities are endless. Even if your business cannot go online, whatever little interaction you have, you need to have your own little SOP in place. And you obviously need to innovate. So let's say because of the pandemic, the demand of whatever you used to make or whatever you used to do has fallen. What's the next best thing that you can do? That is the question that you need to, sit back and ask yourself. As I said earlier, if I'd question myself, fine, the pandemic is here. I don't have a job. What is it that I can do? Can I paint? No. Can I cook? No. Can I, So there's a lot of can I in this. You'd have to actually sit back and ask yourself, what is it? What skill do you have to upscale yourself? And I think in any business, you actually have to put your, since the question doesn't exactly tell me what the business is. um, I'd be a little general in addressing this. But right now, every business can go online. There's no such thing as my business not being online. Even if
Right.
you sell eggs, you can make a Facebook page and you can start interacting with people. You can go live. Here in Malaysia, I don't know about other countries, but here in Malaysia, there was a very interesting thing that I saw, that during the pandemic, people, there was a lot of focus on health and wellness. People would they would like to exercise in their homes or in front of their TV screens, and just to feel a little better, they'd like to wear some sports attire or joggers perhaps. And there would be sellers, there would be individuals who would
Right.
set up a live feed showing off second-hand shoes,
Hmm.
so that people from all walks of life, be it rich, be it poor, if you cannot afford a branded shoe, there's a second-hand shoe available for you, and there's a live feed going on for that. So if you're interested, you can just hit like. I mean, you know, in this day and age, who doesn't have a touch screen?
Hmm.
Uh, from the UK to Malaysia to Pakistan, look around yourself, and technology has become extremely cheap. Mobile internet is with everybody. It's with our tailor, it's with our milkman, it's with our taxi driver.
Yeah.
Entire transport companies are being run on it, and they like calling themselves tech companies, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, the use of technology, the use of social media space, it's not restricted. You just have to tap into it.
Yeah. Besides, I mean, there's no definitive end line for COVID-19, so adaptation has to be the priority right now. I mean, even for survival of businesses, not just in Pakistan, but also around the world. I'll move to the next question now. This is going to be the last question that we'll take. What would you recommend for small businesses survival in Pakistan in this pandemic? Rafiq Saab, I'd like to request you to take the question, please. The survival of small businesses in Pakistan.
You see, I mean, I think Dr. Odon and Yusera has touched based on things that is applicable across the board. Okay, improving your skill sets, thinking out of the box, going and using technology. Dr. Imad also touched upon that. I think, I mean, people are very innovative, and they are survivors as well. They are
Right.
using technology at the same time. They're using a lot of other ways. For example, the barber shops are not allowed to open in certain areas, but the barbers are coming home and charging you 4 times more and giving you the service. So, I mean, people are innovative. I mean, this is out of box thinking. You can't come to me, I'll come to you, because you can't cut hair online. You have to have presence of a barber with you. So there are businesses like that who are surviving. I think they're making more money than in the normal times, because they're charging you arm and a leg for every small service. I mean, an electrician, if you call them to come at home, what they used to take, like say $10, now they're charging $20 and $30 for the same work. So I mean, they're making it up. But the thing is that, I mean, if you are in a legit business, and some businesses are still struggling to open, or they are in a lockdown area, I think there is opportunity in every business, but you have to again think out of the box. You have to see what areas of opportunity you have. I mean, it all depends on business to business. But I refuse to take this answer that no, there's nothing I can do, because there's no such thing as that. Every business has an opportunity, but I can't talk about everybody, but in general terms, that yes, the thing is that you have to get to the customer till things get back to normal, which might take some time. But the thing is that, and then you have to keep thinking, as Dr. Oran said, you need to start thinking that your time is your money. And as much as you think about how you can take your business to the next level, and that's your investment, because sitting and just gloating about it is not going to get it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bakhtiar Nasser, for that valuable question too. Now that brings me to the end of this particular session. I mean, the one conclusion, one key takeaway that I have is that this particular pandemic holds a lot of promise. It has created a tremendous room for innovation. The only thing that we need to do is to strategize that innovation and see how business sustainability could be ensured. Through that, I offer my gratitude to the distinguished panelists, Rafiq Saab, Ms. Yusera, Dr. Odon, and Imadul Karim Saab, who's the head of Department of Business Management with us. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for your presence. Thank you
And
everyone who watched us
and
live.
as a chairperson of this webinar
Sure.
session, I want to thank all the participants as well and the viewers as well who spared their time and joined us. Inshallah, we'll have these kind of sessions in future. And if there's a requirement, we'll call you as well. Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
everyone. Thank you
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.